between our two cities, which both has been a fantastic journey for us, because a lot of them are still farming in the cities, and a lot of them are not farming, and they made a lot of mistakes, and we got to learn from them. And so they've contributed in that sense to increasing the amount of knowledge available for this. And as a result, to give you an idea, what we see is that, I can show you just this, is that we base our work in the incubator on kind of a model, the testbed model we call it, which is 250 square meters of soil. And on this surface, the farmers in the incubator today, they make between 5,000 and 13,000 euros in their first season, which goes from April to November, so quite a short season. And so we are starting to see the effect of the incubator in that sense, that people are very focused on getting the right amount of income right from the beginning, and it allows them to continue their journey later on. We have been working in Sweden, like Adam said, over the last few years, and as of this year or the end of last year, we are now able to try to further develop the method in different hubs. I'm sorry, I don't know if you hear the shouting behind. My little boy is a bit angry today, so you might hear some shouting now and then. This year we are active in seven hubs, and hopefully there will be an eighth one actually in Sweden. So we're working with the Oslo and the county of Oslo, and the same around Bergen and Trondheim. And we also have Zurich and Doetinchem in the Netherlands, and then we have Malmö Gothenburg, and we're starting with Norrtälje, which is just around Stockholm, and which is exciting for us, because of course we get to share more of what we've learned, but also we get to gather much more knowledge on different climate contexts and everything. And the way we approach the incubator is basically to say that, okay, there are some key information that everybody can benefit from, regardless of the context you're in, regardless of your climate. A lot has to do with entrepreneurship knowledge applied to farming, and some of them are just key knowledge to have when it's come to small scale farming. So I will have a little guess here. So here I'm giving you just the overview of what the program of the incubator was last year. Of course, we're working on a new one now, so it's not fully up to date, but it gives you kind of an idea of what we're talking about. So usually we start the incubator with a workshop where you hear the farmers from the previous year tell about their experience of the first year. So it's both a way to increase the network, and also to get first-hand experience from people who have just finished their first year farming. Then we look also at what we call farming entrepreneurship, how to apply entrepreneurship context to farming. How do these two worlds go together, and looking at kind of typical problems one will face and some thinking tools to approach them. Then we have a very hands-on workshop on crop planning and financial planning. Like I said, we don't look at what we can plant and when we can plant it. We look at how much money we want to make and what we need to plan to achieve that. And so we have a workshop that kind of looks into the methodology and the steps to take in order to create a crop planning in the beginning of the season that allows you to reach whatever target you have set for yourself. We have a third workshop, which is microgreens, how to grow indoors. A great way to start the season already in February, March, to complement your income. And depending on the weather and the climate you're in, it might be something you want to do all year round as well. We have a container of microgreens here at Botillenborg that is on all year round. And so we see that as a great way to start to generate income for the farm. Then we have a hands-on workshop, how to get started, because there's a lot of theory. You can find a lot of videos online. But we gather people and we dig some beds and we look at seeders and we use the grelinette and we do all of this so that when you start the season, you've already kind of succeeded at using the tools, have understood how they come together, get a feeling for it. And then we have a workshop about sales, communication, and what we call perma-business, which is basically our idea that in order to increase your revenue, you don't necessarily have to increase your size, but you might have to diversify your income based on value that you're already creating just by farming, because often when you farm, you create a lot of other values that not many people cash in on. Everything from giving study visits and lectures, for example, which is a great way of complementing the income of an urban farm. And then, of course, the workshop number 6 is that you come the year afterwards and you tell the new farmers how was your first year. And this process allows for quite a quick improvement in very locally on the methods to apply and which sales channels work and stuff like this. So here you see that this is how we usually do in the winter. We gather people, we sit together, we have a lot of post-its on whiteboards, and we do a lot of thinking and look at business models and things like this. This year, of course, it's a bit special. Maybe in this year, next year, and the year afterward, who knows? So we are now going digital for this year because of Corona, but also now because we have different hubs in different countries, which doesn't allow us to travel like we want. And also, it's not very relevant for us to explain how things work in Oslo if we're not in Oslo. We can really help you in Malmö when it comes to the specific regional content, but we can't do that in Oslo, not yet at least. And so the way to work this year digitally is that there will be we're going to have an online platform, basically like a learning platform online, and there will be one what we call international incubator program, which is basically content that applies to all region. A lot to do with entrepreneurship, crop planning methods, and stuff like this. This can apply regardless of your context. So there will be a program that follows more or less what I just presented for you, that every farmer in every hub will be able to follow. And it also means that it's a place where you will be able to connect with the other farmers in the other hubs, both in your country, but in the other country. And what brings you together is that you're all in your first year of farming. And so the challenges you will face are very similar. So the community around that first year is what we're trying to build. The second level that we will have, like I mentioned, is that we will have a local program. So it will basically be another course that you join on that same platform. And here it will be all the live sessions, all the discussion to meet the people in your area and to discuss specific topics that have to do with your context. And this is also where you will be able to have access to consulting and one-on-one help with your own projects. And so every region will have their own local incubator. So basically, as a farmer, you will join two programs: the international incubator, where you connect with the overall content and with all the farmers in the program, and then your regional hub, where you will connect with the local people here in Oslo. So that's how it's gonna work this year, and we're very much looking forward to sharing some knowledge and content to some Oslo farmers. So Adam, that's it for me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Cyril. So just as a small disclaimer here, the Oslo program will not look exactly like the Stadsbruk program, but of course we're using it as a model and we'll be getting educational courses from the Stadsbruk program through the web interface that Cyril just mentioned. Yeah, so the plan for the Oslo Incubator program is to center it around Linderud Gård. And to speak more about that, we have Stephanie Degenhardt, who is a rådgiver, you're a rådgiver, yeah, for Oslo Kommune, for Bymiljøetaten. And she has been working on a project up at Linderud Gård to activate that space. And she's going to tell us a little bit more about what's going on up there.
Yes, thanks, Adam. Jeg tar det på norsk. Jeg håper det er greit. Så bare si fra hvis det er noen som ikke snakker norsk eller ikke forstår. Send en melding. Ja, som Adam sa, så jobber jeg i Bymiljøetaten, Oslo kommune, og vi jobber mye sammen med museene i Akershus, som drifter Linderud Gård opp i Bjerke bydel. Og her har vi startet opp ulike urban landbruksinitiativer, eller ikke vi, andre har jo startet opp. Men vi har vært med på det, og her skal vi gjennomføre det inkubatorprogrammet som Cyril presenterte nettopp. Så jeg tenkte bare sånn at alle vet hvor det er. Så skal jeg vise dere en liten video. Skal vi se. Håper det går fint med lyd. Vi tester det litt i forkant, men jeg vet jo aldri. Så dette er en liten video som bare viser oversikt av Linderud veldig kort.
Her står vi i en fantastisk skog. Den ble plantet av barna fra Linderud skole. Her det et åpent sted. Ønsker alle velkommen. Linderud nærmiljøhage ligger på et veldig spesielt sted. Den ligger i den fantastiske Linderud gård, som har det flotte bygning fra 1700-tallet. Og så har det vært dyrket mark her siden 1300-tallet. Så det er ikke noe nytt at det dyrkes her, og det er veldig fantastisk at vi får den muligheten til å starte opp igjen. Så vi har hatt 25 ungdommer i sommerjobb fra Bjerke skole, fra Storfjord skole, fra Oslo Living Lab i Grønland, som alle har bidratt til å lage denne fine møteplassen. Så dette her er faktisk et alternativt møtested til Linderud senter. Mer sol, mer grønn, bare fantastisk. Her er det en andelslandbruk. Den har 60 andeler, både familieandeler og enkeltandeler. Den var kjempepopulær. Den ble solgt ut i de første månedene. Så Oslo kommune har jobbet med å starte opp denne andelsgården, og derfor har vi en litt sosial profil her. Så på det ene ble det avsatt noen andeler til lavinntektsfamilier. Og så ble det avsatt noen andeler til et sosialformål, som da fikk Bydelsmødre-nettverket, som er et nettverk med minoritetskvinner, for å få dem inn i samfunnet. Dette som er spesielt med denne nærmiljøhage, er at dette inngår i et europeisk forskningsprosjekt som handler om et nettverk for spiselige byer. Og her dette drives som et levende laboratorium, så her jobber kommunen tett sammen med næringsdrivende, med lokale beboere og ikke minst med forskning. Og sammen skal vi finne ut av hvordan urban landbruk kan være en ressurs til nabolaget, nærmiljøet og ikke minst hele byen.
Sånn. Det er alltid like pinlig å se videoer for meg selv. Uansett, så her ser dere en oversikt av nærmiljøhage, hvordan den ser ut akkurat nå, eller ikke akkurat nå, som den så ut i sommeren faktisk. Dette jeg tenkte å vise dere veldig kort, det er forklaring at vi i det inkubatorprogram har avsatt areal. Vi har 4 store testet areal på 250 kvadrat, der vi ønsker å søke folk som har lyst til å dyrke her. Og i tillegg til det har vi satt opp 6 små testbed, som er på omtrent 30 kvadratmeter, så det er ganske små, men det er folk for de som ønsker å teste ut i det små, i det første året, og kanskje være med i inkubatorprogrammet året etterpå, kan søke om å få et små testbed. Det var det jeg tenkte å si, så Adam sier litt mer om hvordan inkubatorprogrammet skal se ut i Oslo. Ja, og så er Agnes fra Linderud gård, fra Museum i Akershus. Hun er også med i møtet, så hvis noen har litt spørsmål hvordan det henger sammen, eller litt sånn bakgrunnsinfo, så er det bare å skyte inn spørsmål til slutten. Ja, så er det veldig enkelt og kort.
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. All right, so that was a little bit about Linderud. Now I will share just a little bit about what we have planned so far for the incubator in Oslo and Viken. So first of all, why an incubator? So the goal of our incubator is to spread knowledge, develop methods, and build infrastructure to increase sustainable food production in Oslo and Viken. We know that urban agriculture can do a lot of great things in terms of providing ways for you to meet your neighbors in your boardslag or provide social meeting places within the city. But if we really want to change the food system in Oslo, we know that we have to change the way that people shop for food, which means we have to increase the availability of sustainable food in Oslo and Viken. So this is one of the primary goals of the incubator, is to provide a platform, a way, an educational experience, like I said, to build infrastructure to make that actually happen. So how do we plan on doing that? There is an application process. If you would like to take part in the incubator, we have a limited number of spaces, and that is, of course, due to the quality of education that we hope to provide within the incubator. But once admitted into the incubator, you will have access to courses, mentorship, and then actually have access to soil, which is what Stephanie just talked about up at Linderud Gård. So in terms of courses, Cyril talked a little bit about this. The majority, if not all of the courses that will be available to the Oslo entrepreneurs will be coming from Stadsbruk and will be available on an online platform with an international focus, and then with a separate section that is more Oslo specific. The types of things that we think that are very important for the entrepreneurs in the Oslo and Viken program to understand and to have education in are market gardening methods. So this is a method of growing food that is very intensive, that uses space very efficiently, and that has a practice of when you harvest something, something else goes in the ground immediately. So this is a method of growing that has a focus on the fact that land is probably potentially one of the most limited resources in agriculture around cities. And as such, it aims to use land as efficiently as possible. So there will be courses in that, as well as in crop planning for that, so that you understand how to produce as efficiently as possible to be able to make those sorts of income levels that Cyril was talking about that they've done over in Sweden. We also want to spend some time thinking about distribution and marketing, specifically in a Norwegian context. Are we using Reko-ring? Are we going to Bondens Market? What are the best ways for you to actually sell the food that you're producing? And what are the best ways for you to get the most money for it? So that's something that I think we'll be thinking a lot about, as well as how you tell your story on social media, and how you get customers to believe in your brand and continue to support you. Of course, you can't do anything in agriculture without understanding soil and plant health. So I think that will be a big piece of the educational program as well. We also know that we really want to focus on value-added products. I went to Bondens Market last week, and almost every farmer right now is selling glog. And it's because you can make really good money selling glog. So value-added products seem to be a very important way that you can take a raw product that you've grown, convert it into something of higher value, and then sell it to actually make a better profit than if you sold simply the raw product. Seems to be a very important way to do sustainable agriculture, especially in Norway. So we want to spend some time focusing on that as well. And then lastly, business models. This is something that Nabolagshager in particular has a couple of years of experience with. We're working on a European research project right now around business models in urban agriculture. and have a lot of expertise within that field. And in addition, through a research project we're working on, have quite a bit of rådgivning, of like advice to be able to give to participants in the incubator around business models. So we'll spend some time thinking about that as well. The courses do have a fee. One of the things we want to be really sure of is that participants in the incubator actually come to the courses. So there is a fee for the courses, and we expect that they will be mandatory for those folks who have test beds at Linderud. This is really important to us as we begin to develop this incubator program. We want to make sure that the education that we're offering is creating the results that we had planned for within the incubator. So that is the reason for the mandatory courses. The second piece of the incubator is mentorship. So of course, you're not going to learn everything you need to know in the educational courses that are taking place in the spring. You'll also come into many issues and challenges in the field as you're actually growing things, trying to sell things, and on and on. So the one-on-one mentorship that we're offering through the incubator is available to the folks who have the larger test beds at Linderud, the 250 square meter test beds. And what we envision this to be is kind of a weekly one-on-one time with experts that can kind of be scheduled as you need. So currently, the incubator program has quite a diverse group of experts surrounding it and supporting it that include agricultural experts, researchers at universities, business advisors, and more. So there's a wide pool of knowledge that you'll be able to get access to help you get your idea kind of off the ground within the space of Linderud Gård. Finally, soil. This is an important part of the incubator, as you'll be taking an idea and actually putting it into action in the garden and producing something that you'll be able to then sell. As Stephanie said, at Linderud Gård, we have 3 250 square meter test beds, and we have 6 30 square meter test beds that will be available in the 2021 growing season. It is possible to participate in the incubator with your own space already secured somewhere else. That would look like a participation in the courses that are available with you paying for the fee for the courses. We're still determining how many participants we will take on in that capacity. But of course, our focus is the participants who will be at Linderud Gård. I think what I'll say here as well before we open up for some questions is that there are a lot of other activities happening at Linderud Gård, as Stephanie pointed out. There's an Andals Landbruk up there, a CSA farm, as well as some community plots, one for the local high school and other community members who have growing plots in that space. The ultimate goal of that space is to create a community hub around the growing that is happening there. So I say that to say there will be lots of public social events and other things happening at Linderud Gård through 2021. And one of our primary goals with those events and activities is to increase interest in the entrepreneurs who are growing at Linderud Gård through the incubator program, and to try to increase the market for those folks in the incubator, so that you have easier access to customers. You have customers who believe in what you're doing and can actually see it in person, and you're connected to the neighborhood where your farm is. Yes, so I think that was a lot of information, and I'm sure a lot of people have questions. The way the application process is going to work is that we have created an online application, which we will share at the end of this meeting. We can share it in the chat, but we'll also post it on the Facebook event, and also share it through a number of other methods. The application is due the 18th of December if you want to take part in the incubator. And we will be making the selection of who gets to participate in the incubator during the first week of January. So I believe it says on the form, I believe it's the 8th of January, we'll be sending out notifications. The plan as it stands now is that the courses will start towards the end of January. The majority of them will be online. So I think it will be fairly easy to access them when you have time. Other events will be happening on weekends. I mean, we're very flexible in terms of making this work for the participants that we accept. So questions. Maybe what makes the most sense to do is to start in the chat. And to post questions there. And that way we can do this in a semi-organized way. Okay, so I see questions starting to come in. The first one is, what would the ideal participant be? Cyril, are you still on?
I'm still there.
Yeah. Maybe you could tell us, what is the ideal participant you look for in Salzburg?
Yeah, well, I would say, first of all, it depends of what the people who are behind the ecosystem have as a goal, right? Depending on what is being made available, it defines a bit who you're looking for. I can take our example in Malmö. We are still quite limited in the amount of space that we have and in how the municipality is getting involved. It's much less than you have in Oslo so far. Which means that for us, what's important on the long term is to have people who are really successful and independent, who need very little work from the municipality in terms of management. That's kind of not the most fancy goal that we have, but this is what has been agreed with the city. So for us, what this means when we recruit is that we want to recruit for people who can succeed quickly within our context. And so what we look for, first of all, is someone who has the ambition of farming on the long term, or at least over the coming 3 or 4 years, not just I just want to try for fun. We want someone who has this kind of long-term vision, even if it starts slowly. Second, we look for someone who has the right amount of time available, because with no time you cannot succeed at anything. So we know that it takes about half time of the high season, and maybe 20-30% during the off season, but it can be time that you work during the weekends and the evenings. But during the high season, if you're going to deliver to restaurants, you need to deliver during the week, which means you need to harvest during the week. So you need some time available there. That's quite important for us. And the third thing is to make sure that people have an economy to sustain themselves, because even if one can make 30,000 euros on the first year, it's not enough, especially in Oslo, to make a living yet. And it takes time. And just like with any types of company, it takes a few years before you get on the proper income. So we really look at what's the economical model of the people that come in the incubator. And someone who needs money after the first month is not a sustainable candidate for us. So now this is our context in Malmö. And just quickly on Gothenburg, which is the municipality is super involved and they want to offer the possibility to many, many more people. So here they're much more flexible. Anyone who wants to be a part of it can be a part of it. So you see, it can really has a whole range.
Stephanie, do you have anything to add there after thinking about the project at Linderud?
No, I think it was a really good sum up of Cyril. What I would like to say is that, this is our first year of trying the incubator in Oslo, and we have to find out what's best. So we want to be very open for what kind of projects there are. for example, if you only concentrate on flowers, then that is as good as having a market garden principle. Or if you are someone who wants to include a social profile instead of only focusing on just selling things, then I think we would also be open for that, as long as we can make it work in terms of money-wise. Another thing I wanted to say, it's not super related, but so the incubator runs for 1 year. So the idea is that you have a test bed for 1 year. We could extend that if that shows during the season that is needed. But generally the idea is to be there for 1 year. And during the year, we look together for a bigger area or a different area where you could move to. I think that was important.
Yeah, certainly. So to build off of what Stephanie was saying, the goal is to help you grow as a business. So 250 square meters is probably not enough to make a real income forever. So the goal is that is where you can kind of test things out and make mistakes with the experts, and then kind of move on with your business to a larger area, to something a little bigger, once you feel comfortable. Another question I saw that come up in the chat is administrative kind of support. So that's something that I know we've been talking about with Stephanie and Ellen Maria, is especially like Mattilsynet, like food health authorities. It's a big challenge for urban farmers. It's a giant question mark in Norway right now, I think. And it's something that we're really focused on and really want to be a key part of the incubator, is figuring out how do you jump through these kind of administrative regulatory hoops, so that you can take your product to market and sell it legally and safely. So that will certainly be a part of the educational part of the incubator. So I see someone else asking, can people in the incubator program apply for external funding, perhaps to give them a stipend so that they can run their farm for a year? I think that's completely fine. I can't see any reason that would be a problem. And there are plenty of funding options in Oslo for support for urban agriculture. So that could be a good way to get extra support for your incubator plot. Yes, I am going to go ahead and post the link to the application here in the chat, so that folks can go ahead and start to take a look at it. There might be questions that come up, and I think we're very happy to answer any of those questions. So feel free to take that link and take a look through that. I'll emphasize once again, the deadline for the application is the 18th of December, with the goal of courses beginning in the end of January. Stephanie, maybe you could say, when is the earliest that folks could actually get access to those test beds if they're awarded those?
Well, it depends on the weather next year. I suppose as soon as the snow is gone. I forgot to say that there is access to water at the farm, and that would be included in the price, so there won't be any costs there. No, I don't remember if Adam, if you mentioned it, but we also want to cover some of the basic tools. Though if there are some special tools you need for your business, then you have to cover that yourself. And yes, and the farm is vernet. What's the English word? Anyone?
I don't know that one.
Yeah, so it's an old farm, so Byantikvaren has a vernet, so it's not allowed. Okay, what it basically means that it's not allowed to build permanent structures on the field.
Heritage listed.
There, yes. Thanks, Natalie. Cool. I also am seeing a question come up about access to a greenhouse. That is a conversation that we actually had earlier this week. The answer is we don't know yet. And as of right now, we think the entrepreneurs would be responsible for having their own plant starts and taking care of that themselves. If we go that direction, and if we do not get access to a greenhouse, we will be providing some sort of workshop on how to easily do that in your own house affordably and efficiently. It's something that I actually did this past spring in my own house. We started, I think, a total of like 1,600 plants for our little small brook just here in our apartment. So it's totally possible to do. I think there's other folks here who have also done it as well. So if we do not get greenhouse access for our entrepreneurs, we'll be doing some workshops on how to do all of that yourself so that you can begin that in February and be ready to plant when it warms up. Stephanie?
I shoot in. What we do have access to will be a polytunnel. Agnes, correct me if I'm wrong, but it would be a small tunnel. It would be a cold greenhouse, to speak, but it's something we can offer.
Yeah, cool. Other questions I see coming up are how long are the test beds available? Yeah, so if you are awarded a test bed through the application process, you'll have it for 2021. Of course, our goal is to put as many people through this program as possible, but we're also very focused on making sure that the entrepreneurs that go through this program are able to then move on to start their own business, and we're very committed to trying to help find additional land for you to be able to do that. So a year to begin with, there is the option to extend, but be aware that, of course, our goal is to educate, not to have people stuck in the program for multiple years. Yeah.
There were two more questions.
Yeah, I see something about income. Cyril, can you talk a little bit about the income that you guys are finding over in Sweden?
Yeah, I can do that. I'm doing puzzles at the same time, just so you know. It's a bit messy. Yeah, like I mentioned, what we see, there's two things that we consider. The income that we set as a goal for people. So typically in the incubator program, when we look at crop planning and financial planning, we showcase a crop planning that adds up to 70,000 Swedish crowns on Swedish prices. So one would have to kind of relate it to exactly what it means, but tends to be roughly the same. You know, prices follow the market and everything. So that's what we promote, and we see this as a goal to have for someone who is dedicating the right amount of time in their first year. The reality, of course, because some people don't have as much time, and some people also are a bit slower to get going maybe with the selling part, which is often the challenging part. People want to get going with farming, but to go and meet chefs and stuff like this can be a bit more scary, and people get late in their season because of that. So mostly we're seeing that I don't know which currency to talk. 40,000 Swedish crowns, right? Would be the minimum we're seeing now on the test bed. Merci. 40,000 crowns would be the minimum, and 130 is the maximum. And most people are around 50, 60 for those who do a good first season. And I wanted to mention something on that based on what Stephanie was saying as to when do you get access to the land in the beginning of the season. We find that you get sérieux mon bonhomme. Sorry. He's unhappy. He's making the puzzle on me, so he's not happy that I'm moving. But one thing we say is that getting early access to the farm doesn't necessarily mean you will make a better year. What we see is that one of the key factors is to early on start reaching out to the potential customers and the chef even before you have the farm. And the more prep work you can do on that, even if you start only in May or even in June, if you have your sales channel clear and ready, Oliver, c'est rien, mon bonhomme, you can be in full production much quickly. Okay, I stop now. It's probably quite annoying, but I think you get the point.
Thanks, Cyril. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, also to build off of this, the test bed is fairly small, 250 square meters, but this is the size that they use over at Stadsbruk, and we've been advised that it's a great place to start. Of course, if you're going to run this as your full-time business past the incubator, you'll probably need a bit more space than that. But I think what we see in these models coming out of both the US and Canada of this kind of highly intensive market farming is that you can actually make quite an okay living on not a whole lot of space. It's going to require a ton of labor, but it is possible. I think Cyril has something to add there.
Yeah, I can just say, to give a follow-up to after the first year when you continue, I can give the example of our farm, and it's the case of another couple of farms in Malmö who have reached this size. We run 1,500 square meters. It's our second season, and we are looking at, we made 600,000 crowns this year of income. And the people who have followed the test bed and everything before, it's the same. They went from about 100,000 the first year, those who did really good, and then they expanded and they go to 300,000 the second year, and third year 600,000. So you kind of have this, you can double up kind of every year, both income and size, basically, as a rule of thumb-ish to follow.
Cool. Yes. All right, anyone else have any more questions or comments before we wrap this up for today? Stephanie?
Yes, Natalie wrote if she could do something in the container Vaterlandsparken. Generally, yeah, so we are open for, as I say, different models, and if people have their own space, that would also be, yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, it was an offer. Tyrell asked about a greenhouse and the container in Vaterlandsparken. If the entrepreneur brought their own växthus, the container is heated, and if we could ensure good water, you know, that water wasn't going to damage the container, it's a possibility.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to get in contact and talk more about that then. Yeah. I see someone asking, do you need to have an organization to have a test bed? I guess not at the beginning, but I would assume, yeah, you're probably going to need like to have an enkel persons foretak if you're going to eventually end up selling what you're producing, because you're going to have income coming in that you're going to need to report to Skattetaten. So I think that's something that we'll kind of all work on figuring out together as we work through the educational part of the program. Yeah, and talk about accounting and finance and all of these kinds of things. Yeah, I see someone else kind of building off the idea of enkel persons foretak and asking, does it make sense to go together and start maybe a small AS instead of running an enkel persons foretak? It's an interesting idea. I'm running an AS right now, and let me tell you, it's intense. The amount of tax reporting you have to do. It's much easier, I think, to run an enkel persons foretak. But
what's an AS, Adam? Just because it's a question we get a lot here, but I'm not sure the type of organization are the same. Is it like economics forening type of thing?
Yeah, I think it's like a stock-based company, like a limited liability company.
AS är aktiebolag på norsk.
Aktiebolag, okay, yeah, okay. Yeah, I can say that in Malmö, everybody either starts enskild firma, which is the one you mentioned earlier, or the people who farm as a group, they have some kind of economisk förening, so like association type of setup, and then they have their own enskild firma behind it. It's the setup we see 99% of the time. Only people with papers for immigration create AB-bolag. That's the only setup we have.
Ellen Maria, if you're still on here, I see a question. Worden har fylkesmannen involvert, or hvordan romer dette vilken område?
Yeah, I can take it in Norwegian. Altså, fylkesmannen er involvert på den måten at vi har tatt initiativet til dette prosjektet. Og så vi samarbeider jo med det som skjer i Bergen og i Trøndelag, altså rundt Trondheim, med inkubatorkurs. Og det er klart at det er ikke bare Oslo det dreier seg om. Det kan være deltakere også fra andre steder i Viken. Og vi har også spesielt tenkt på andelsbønder og andre som prøver ut forskjellige modeller. Så her er det muligheter å søke.
Yeah, so to emphasize that, it doesn't have to just be folks focused on urban farming. We're very focused on just producing sustainable food in a market-based way. So that can look like a lot of different things, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyone else before we hop off? I've put the application link in the chat. I'll post it right now in the Facebook event, and we'll continue to share it from the Spirene Oslo Facebook, as well as the Nabolagshager, and I think Fylkesmannen i Oslo and Viken will share it as well. So it will be available. Yeah, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions. I'll add my email address to that application form so that you can have someone to ask. And Stephanie has something to add before we go.
Yes, I just wanted to say, if anyone thinks it's difficult to pay the course fee, we set up 1,200 crowns, then drop us a line, just approach us. This should not be, like the course fee should not be the hindrance for someone to not be part of the incubator program.
Yes. All right. Thanks everyone so much. And we really look forward to making this happen. So yeah. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Ada.